Hey everyone, I am back with a brand new movie review. Can you guess what I'm about to review? I think you can. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. We are going to be reviewing The Mandalorian and Grogu, so stick around for my adventure and my review.
Let's save the rest for after dinner.
That's right, at the start of this video I said I'm going to be talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu, and this is my review, and I'm going to be as spoiler free as possible. And as much as I want to do this in the helmet the whole time, I am not going to do that. So yeah, you got me instead. Yes, so I'm going to be talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu. I am your host Ash, and welcome back to hopefully another spoiler-free review. I'm going to make this as spoiler-free as possible, but I'm very sorry. I apologize if I do spoil something before you go see the movie. So, where do we start? A lot of people are saying this movie is mid, and I sit sort of in between that, because I am biased. I do love The Mandalorian. I do tend to like Star Wars when there's not a lot of Jedi and Sith involved. It seems to be the best material. Skeleton Crew, The Mandalorian, Andor, all these things have been telling of better story than it has been of the Jedi and Sith lately. Maybe the animations kind of get a pass because I do love Maul Shadow Lord, so there's that. But let's move on. If you haven't seen the trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu, this is the next stage, if you will, or maybe the final piece into, or the ending of a beloved franchise. This is set as possibly a season 4. Or the end of the Mandalorian and Grogu adventures. But I want to say this, as I said at the start of this, if you watched the trailer, and spoilers if you haven't and or not familiar with the story of the Rebels, because the Mandalorian and Grogu are on an adventure to save Rhoda the Hutt. Yes, Rhoda the Hutt being Jabba the Hutt's son. Now, interesting things to point out about Jabba the Hutt's son. In Rebels, as far as I remember, he was just a baby, a youngling, if you will, and now he's all grown up. There's a little caveat with this character, which I didn't even realize until another reviewer, Chris Stanley, by the way, fantastic reviewer, fantastic YouTuber, and all-time influencer, one of my favorite guys to go to. Until he pointed out, I really didn't even notice it, and this is how critical of he can be, and how maybe I should be. Rhoda the Hutt was speaking English the whole time, and I didn't even realize it till it was pointed out that Jabba the Hutt has its own language. And sorry guys, I don't know the language or the name of the language. And I thought to myself, why is that? What I think is predominantly because he may not have anyone teach him the language of the Hutts, so he speaks English. Now, yeah, so I don't know, yeah, it's a very interesting point. That are you ingrained with the knowledge of speaking your language, or do you get taught another language as you grow up? And I think it comes down to the latter, that you just sort of pick up on the common language that's around you. So, going forward, the Mando and Grogu are on an adventure to try and save Rhoda the Hutt from wherever he is imprisoned to then get information or more information on the ever-growing empire. And that's where I'll sort of stop with the story. The story in itself is a very fun story, but it's very typical. Maybe too typical for for what we're used to. We're used to a lot of dark stories. There's a lot of stakes involved. Could someone die, and someone should die, and therefore progressing the story even further. I don't think that should be the case every time. That's my personal opinion. I don't think there needs to be high stakes at everything. So this was what we call a very spaghetti western kind of movie, and it's what a space western should be, especially when there's low stakes involved. If you're not familiar with the term spaghetti western, it's usually a typical trope: bad guy goes chase down good guy chasing down bad guy. Good guys usually win, and there's that's just the formula. And I think that's what's happened with the Mandalorian and Grogu. Do I think there should have been higher stakes? Maybe. But I do think, because this is inherently a kids movie, and a kids movie that caters to a larger audience, that you maybe can't have higher stakes, and maybe you shouldn't have higher stakes. I don't know. I go back and forth on this one, because I understand the typical movie trope of a spaghetti western, and this is in fact it's a sci-fi western, but it is still a western movie. But we've also, I grew up with episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, where as much as they for young adult teen kid movies, there are a lot of high stakes involved. So it was just refreshing to see that you don't really need to have such high stakes to have a lot of fun. There are little downsides with that, but I do think it plays into the fact that it's still a fun movie. Graphics wise, CGI wise, I think was okay. There were a couple of times where you could clearly see a lot of green screen was done, but also to balance that, there were a lot of practical effects, and especially with Grogu, it seemed very much all practical effects, and it made for Grogu to be more alive in a lot of ways. So I think that really worked out. It was a great balance between them both. Some CGI was poor, but I think it was balanced out really well with the fact that Grogu and some other animatronics were practically done. The music was awesome. If you, they were, I don't know whose idea it was, whether it be Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau and the music director all coming together, playing trap music, Mandalorian trap music was peak, and I cannot get enough of that, and I'm going to be probably playing that album for the next solid week, because there were some absolute bangers in there, and I'm not going to be afraid to say it, that was really fun, and I was nodding my head going, this beat's crazy actually, it hits. So that was very fun. The story, was I can keep going on and on about the story, but I think as meh as it could be, I do think I hold it in a bit better regards into some of the Star Wars stuff that's been coming out lately. I do hold it a bit higher. Now, the big question is, does The Mandalorian end on a note where it's going to be continued in the future? I hope it did. I would be very happy, or I'd be satisfied enough with the ending to go, this is just the end of Mandalorian and Grogu, and will we see more of them in other things? Yeah, hopefully so. But I'd be just as satisfied if this was the end of their adventure. I don't think it will be. I don't think there's necessarily going to be a Mandalorian season 4. There has been talks about it, and Jon Favreau has come out and said that he did write scripts for season 4, but they have not been picked up. So I don't think there's any reason to go into a season 4, especially with Grogu and Mando that we know. I would love it if they did a season 4 more on Bo-Katan and others. That way, that might make for a better story. Following, because the Mandalorian doesn't specifically have to be Din Djarin, it could be Bo-Katan. So I do think in that regard, if they were getting to season 4, I do think Bo-Katan should be at the helm. And I think this was a great ending to the story. So I recommend going to see it in IMAX if you can. If you can't, any screen will do. I think this is a great return for the Star Wars franchise, especially being 7 years away from the big screen. If you, it's been that long since they've actually had a cinema release. So go see The Mandalorian and Grogu. I think it's well worth the watch, especially if you just want a fun adventure movie. I'd give it a solid 3.5 out of 5, maybe even close to a 4. But as I said, trying to be objective, that the story was kind of a typical story of a spaghetti western and just good versus bad with no real stakes. But I do love The Mandalorian and Grogu and everything that sort of follows the realm of that. Music was awesome. Graphics was mid, but as I said, there was a balance between that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on The Mandalorian and Grogu. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Go see The Mandalorian and Grogu in cinemas pretty much right after this video. So maybe don't watch this video until you see it. I don't know, that's your choice. Dealer's choice. So yeah, but hope this has been a fun one. Don't forget, this is the way. See you next time, guys. Have a good night.